Dear friends, a very warm welcome to Frontiers of History and a very warm welcome to our speaker, Dr. Purnimala Sarkar. Very briefly about Frontiers of History, this series which has been held for the last 6 years in India International Center, and we have had more than 50 speakers. The goal of the series has been to invite academics and to ask them to present their work to a lay audience. Keeping this in mind, we have had a special focus on cultural histories, and today Dr. Sarkar will be speaking on dance history. Dr. Sarkar is a trained dancer, and she joined the Uday Shankar India Culture Center at the age of 5 and trained with the great dancers Amala Shankar, on whom she will be speaking today. She has been associated with the Uday Shankar Culture Center for a long while, both as a dancer and as a administrator, and also has performed with the troupe all over the world. Dr. Sarkar now teaches in the Jawaharlal Nehru University. She has a degree in anthropology and specializes in dance studies. She has published widely, and her new book on Uday Shankar will be out shortly. I welcome Dr. Sarkar to make her presentation.
Namaskar. I'm here to speak on Srimati Amala Shankar, my dance teacher, who I first met in 1966. She was born on the 27th of June 1919 and she left us on 24th of July 2020. I would like to thank India International Center and Professor Partha Datta for giving me this opportunity to pay my tribute to her memory. This tribute aspires to be much more than just paying my respect to my teacher. I would like to explore an uncharted territory regarding her pedagogical contribution to dance teaching and innovation in the realms of Indian modern dance. Engulfed by the halo of the illustrious husband and the great dance master Uday Shankar and the world renowned sitarist Pandit Ravi Shankar, Amala Shankar's capabilities as a dancer and a teacher has gone without much academic, analytic, or appreciative attention. Even though she continued to live, breathe, and dream dance. Forever, for over 50 years that I have known her, as a teacher, as a mentor, and as a guide, she practiced and taught dance with an overwhelming and often obsessive single mindedness, sometimes even at the cost of being misunderstood by near and dear ones. There is almost no academic writing on Amala Shankar. Her students have not written specifically about her, her dance, her efforts to rejuvenate Uday Shankar's Dance Academy, her pedagogic endeavors, and the huge number of students, both male and female, that she had nurtured over 50 years that she ran Uday Shankar India Culture Center in Calcutta. The world or the people within India hardly know about her paintings until much later in her life. She never claimed her space as a wonderful painter who had created a large number of beautiful paintings using her fingers instead of brushes to paint with watercolor. Hardly anyone knows that she created the slides for the shadow play for Uday Shankar's choreography named Buddha, which she re-choreographed in 1992 as Mahamanav. Hardly anyone knows that Amala actually read out Rabindranath Tagore's poem Shamanya Khoti, meaning an insignificant loss, to Uday Shankar, who did not read Bengali comfortably, which led to the choice of the poem by Shankar as a choreographic theme. Nobody acknowledges her role other than as a dancer in Uday Shankar's film Kalpana, where her contribution behind the camera was as significant as in front of it. Amala Shankar hesitated to claim her space in the dance world without using her position as Shankar's wife. In the process, till the day of her passing, she was known as a beautiful dance partner of Shankar at best, but not for her role in keeping Shankar's dance process alive. She always mentioned how long her journey has been from a small village in undivided Bengal to the world stage, humbly placing herself in the social milieu of a village in Bengal named Batajor, where she was born and raised amongst numerous siblings. She took pride in being traditional, educated, and encouraged to learn epic texts as well as histories, knowing the work that women in traditional families need to know, she said, and the age old Indian values. Side by side, she was an independent artist, fiercely passionate, teacher, a loving mother, a strict disciplinarian with whom our parents let us travel the world on performance tours. Amala Shankar saw her life with Shankar as something ordained by God. Dance happened to her early. At the age of 11, she accompanied her father Akshay Nandi to the Colonial Exposition in Paris in 1931, where she met her future husband Uday Shankar. She often told us stories about the first tours in Europe with Uday Shankar and his troupe. Being Amala's ex-student, I tried to imagine the glory and grandeur of the tours by reading her book, little known but published at the age of 14, Shat Shagorer Pare, which is translated into Beyond the Seven Seas. It could be translated as Beyond the Seven Seas, which she wrote on her experience of that tour and published first when she was only 14 years old, as I said. It spoke of her journey through famous cities of Europe in 1932-33 as the troupe made its way from one city to another to perform at the largest of venues. Amala Shankar, Nee Nandi, danced with two other dancers in that troupe, Simki, a French pianist who became a dancer and was the then dance partner of Uday Shankar, and Kanaklata, Uday Shankar's cousin. A Swiss sculptress, Alice Bonner, was one of the patrons and organizers for that tour, and she had joined the troupe in that tour as the manageress. This pretty much set the rhythm of Amala's later life. After Uday opened his dance institution, Uday Shankar India Culture Center, in Almora in 1939, Amala Shankar was taken there by her father. She joined the center, learned Uday Shankar's pedagogical systems, became a member of his troupe, and started touring with Shankar himself. She was also closely following the classes of Zohra Segal and Simki. Amala was at the Uday Shankar India Culture Center in Almora for about 2 years before she got married to Uday Shankar. In her numerous conversations with us, she would say that though her personal and professional life as Shankar's wife and dance partner resided side by side in her life, she learned to foreground Uday Shankar, the world famous dancer, over Uday, her husband, consciously or unconsciously submitting to a large patriarchal frame of evaluation that placed Amala Shankar first as a student and then as a wife and a dance partner of the world famous dancer. Amala Shankar remained ensconced in the shadows of Uday Shankar and identified herself as a woman whose life and dance were totally and completely shaped and directed by Shankar's ideas and creative genius. She never claimed her position as an independent dancer, choreographer, and the dance community certainly did not give her the position until much later in her life after Shankar's death in 1977. Even then, she was acknowledged as someone who has made Uday Shankar's legacy visible by carrying on with teaching his dances. It is only as a teacher post 1965 when she established Uday Shankar India Culture Center in Calcutta with Uday Shankar as the founder director that she established her position as the director in charge, and she remained director in charge for throughout Uday Shankar India Culture Center Calcutta's lifetime. So her work within the Calcutta dance circle at that point got a kind of recognition through her role as a teacher of Uday Shankar's dance technique, as she carried on her work as a choreographer and as a recreator of Shankar's choreographies as well. Uday Shankar India Culture Center in Calcutta formally continued as a popular dance institution for 50 years and closed down in 2015 due to Amala Shankar's inability to continue teaching. It has trained thousands of students, and its performance troupe has traveled all over the world, bringing huge visibility to Shankar's style of dance and the choreographies of Uday and Amala Shankar. Uday Shankar India Culture Center is no more. It died twice. Once in Almora, when the path-breaking institution established by Uday Shankar in 1939 shut down in 1944, leaving its students confused and without any support. And the second time in Calcutta, where the diminishing popularity of the institution and Amala Shankar's failing health conditions made it essential to shut doors of the institution again, this time probably forever. Her school in Calcutta was in many ways the place where Amala Shankar tested and developed her pedagogic tools. She had staged her remarkable choreographies Sita Swayamvara, Vasavadatta, Chidambara, Yugachanda, and Chitrangada, and also restaged or recreated Uday Shankar's original choreographies Samanya Kshati and Mahamanav, and shorter presentations such as Kartikeya, Astra Puja, Snanam, Village Festival, Ras Leela, and others. She continued her work through her life, all the while existing under the shadow of Uday and Ravi Shankar. Amala Shankar was a teacher par excellence. Many of us, now in our early 60s, joined Uday Shankar India Culture Center between 1965 and 1968. We were her first few batches, and with us, she experimented on her creative dance process. She always insisted that a good dancer is a keen observer, and the students who do well in dance also achieve excellence in their academics. She trained young bodies and minds for 50 years, including her own daughter Mamata Shankar and her daughter-in-law Tanushri Shankar, and many others like us who have kept dance alive in our lives in different manners. Many of us learned to look at the world through her eyes, managed to handle forks and spoons at formal dinners under her watchful eyes, and wore our first saris with her standing and instructing us. She was much more than a dance teacher. She was our world. Let me share a special story that remains etched in my mind. We traveled to Sikkim in 1974 with Mashima, that is Amala Shankar, on a small plane. USICC, that is Uday Shankar India Culture Center, was invited to perform on the occasion of Indian Republic Day in Sikkim. This was the year before Sikkim became an Indian territory. This was my first aeroplane ride. I was in ninth standard. Mashima asked me to come and sit beside her in the plane. I was on the window seat, and the whole way she kept pointing out the landscape, the rivers, the mountain range, the greenery that was visible from the window. It was the first time I saw a live map unfolding below. Our last major production premiered in 1993. Mashima took on the role of Siddhartha in Mahamanav, a restaged shadow choreography based on the work of Buddha's life story presented earlier by Uday Shankar in 1953. She was already in her 70s, but her energy and enthusiasm had us on our toes all day, every day, while the choreography was being set to music. Her hand painted slides were used as the backdrop of all the sceneries that were used in the shadow play. I was Yashodhara, Siddhartha's young wife, who he left behind when he started on a journey for truth. I waited in anticipation every day for that farewell scene, when she, as Siddhartha, would come and sit behind my sleeping body, bidding a farewell to me by holding my hand close to her cheek before leaving for the unknown world. Every day I would cry, feeling the pain of separation, lying very still till the music changed and I had to wake up as a part of my act and start searching for Siddhartha frantically. Today I feel that the search has ended in a way, and now she is to be found every day in all our work, dance related or otherwise. Amula Shankar's legacy is her creation and reformulation of Uday Shankar's idea of creative dance. Her strength was her understanding of the process to empower young dancers, to think of dance in everything they were surrounded by. She helped her students in imagining beautiful movements by joining any line, circle, triangles, or squares that they saw around them. Her instructions ring loud and clear while moving to any piece of music. Feel it, understand the emotion, embody the rhythm. I would like to share the first memory of the dance school with all of you. Shortly after Uday Shankar and Amula Shankar opened their school, Uday Shankar India Culture Center in South Calcutta, I met Uday and Amula Shankar in my uncle's chamber. He was a famous eye specialist of that time. I remember being called to his chamber by my uncle and being introduced to the illustrious couple, whose significance I understood much later. I had nodded in an affirmative vigor to the question that they asked to my mother and also to me. Would she like to come to our school? That day, unknowingly, I, with my mother, chose a path that I have walked with joy. Uday Shankar India Culture Center as an institution and Amula Shankar as an extraordinary teacher guided many of the students through dance training, of course, but also played a pivotal role in helping us learn the ways of life through intense and prolonged lessons in socialization, ethics, aesthetics, and over and above everything else, the role of dance in everyday life. I'm glad that on that day in my uncle's chamber, my mother was so enthused by the description of the dance school, and I actually joined Uday Shankar India Culture Center. In more ways than one, our beloved Amula Shankar has remained the reason for which many of us have belonged to the world of dance, or rather, the reason why dance has been our world. Therefore, writing or speaking about Amala Shankar's story for us has to be that of Uday Shankar India Culture Center, Kolkata, where she repeatedly said that she did not want to create dancers, but actually wanted to create good human beings. The first day's class was a surprise. I have never forgotten it. Coming from a more regular setup of a traditional dance school where I had started going before I joined the center. So, the first experience in that other school was that of simply imitating movements shown by the teacher or her assistants. This class was about finding ways to move. It was also about finding motifs from everyday life and pushing everyday movements and moments to become more than simple, unregistered acts. It was also about transforming the natural movements into a clinically assisted procedural application into specific, structured, and repeatable movement sequence ready to be called dance. On hindsight, the beginning of my experience was about process and not product at all. The training was special. We had to attend 3 classical dance classes, Manipuri, Kathakali, and Bharatanatyam, as well as 1 class on Uday Shankar style of creative dance. The class on creative style was created for each, was conducted by Srimati Amala Shankar herself, recognizing and appreciating music which was created for each exercise of the class, improvised and played live by experienced musicians using sarod, flute, and tabla, was the first group of activity. Movements in the creative class were drawn from everyday life, sometimes experimenting with walking on different rhythms, sometimes expressing through movements words like no, give, go, or sometimes imitating the posture of somebody sitting or standing in a particular way, or making movements with English or Bengali alphabets or numbers. It was as if I was looking at the world through dance and everything around me had started dancing. The training was rigorous as well, full of disappointments and highs, connected to simple facts like standing in the first line or the second one, or being part of a performance or not. In our minds, we already were socialized to measure our success or failure in the accepted manner, always registering when someone was chosen to be in the first line, or for a particular role, or for a more visible position, etc. Looking back, I understand what a monumental task it must have been for our teacher to normalize aspirations in a way where one learned to accept self-reflexivity and evaluation as a normal part of one's life, and in fact constantly be self-critical so that it became easy to volunteer to step back and let someone else go forward. It was a learning and unlearning time which many of the students and parents could not take, and those who stuck on had actually won a huge game of self-discipline as well as learning to acknowledge the importance of a collective where dancing well individually was of no importance unless one was able to perform with a group and as a part of the group to contribute towards building the collective practice and image. Innumerable trips with the dance troupe of Uday Shankar India Culture Center, both within and outside India, since then have really made me acknowledge how much there was to learn beyond dance in our teacher's company. My dance skills may have been instrumental in giving me a space in the troupe, but the rest of the learning, especially the importance of being there for the troupe and not for myself, to be interested in seeing new things, new sights, meeting and enjoying new geographies, cultures, people, and trying to absorb the sights, sounds, and wonders all around gave us the strength to enjoy and endure many things in our everyday lives. Now, when I take my students on field trips for anthropological and ethnographic research related to performance research, all these moments of sharing come back to me as strength and insight to make the work possible. Uday Shankar India Culture Center continued to teach multiple classical styles. Initially Kathakali, Bharatanatyam, Manipuri from 1965, and much later also Kathak and Odissi, along with the creative style of dance that became their signature entry point into the arena of Indian modern dance. As started by Uday Shankar in his dance academy in Almora by the same name, it was never fully defined, but it became the strength of new creativity, new thoughts, new ways of engaging with one's own body. Classical dances provided a variety of embodied knowledge that extended the possibilities for exploration for the bodies. The strong belief was that the body of a new learner would be challenged and pushed into breaking movement stereotypes, of being helped to recognize the abilities and extent of possibilities of each part of the body. The learner was encouraged to understand the connection between different rhythms and moving as they constantly interacted with live music that allowed them to experience the freedom as well as the challenge of embodying the different rhythmic patterns in a body music conversation. The focus of Srimati Shankar was on teaching the possibilities of developing different processes of creating dance, movement, and choreography. This was in complete opposition to the usual practice in dance classes, where dance grammars were being made more and more rigid and were taught to be reproduced as fixed repertoire. Somatic and kinetic possibilities and capabilities are finite insofar as human capability, musculature, physiology, and everyday skills can permit. Dance practice, like sport or yoga, challenges the body to reach beyond what it is used to do and pushes the dancer to achieve some level of expertise that would be born out of extraordinary skill and imagination that always pushes abilities and reaches beyond what was thought to be the limits of the possible. The class for innovation and movement creation by Srimati Amala Shankar therefore pushed students to think of a new vocabulary, resulting in new movement, if there is any, in dance that was either created out of new triggers and therefore out of the box, either in terms of its grammar or its application, or with new kinds of content. Triggers could be images drawn in stick figures, by Mashima herself during classes. They could be letters, numbers in English or Bengali. They could also be live bodies of the musicians who were part of the everyday class or any other guest visiting the school. We were asked to take inspiration from the sitting or standing postures of the live bodies in the classroom and create movements. Sometimes the writing of a letter with hands, steps, or different parts of the body would generate the movement. Sometimes the student would actually finish in a posture which resembled the image he or she was inspired by. Imagine a class of 20 or 25 students where every student created a new dance movement based on the images or bodies. Movement making was a game, a dare, and also a very minutely observed, assessed, as well as critiqued method of skill development, introducing this kind of creativity very early in the pedagogy for developing the understanding of the process rather than just the imitative cloning that happens in the beginning of many dance classes. A class for creative, innovative dance practice intrinsically involved structured and unstructured process of moving, remembering the move, and being able to repeat and refine it as well as we went along. Introducing the students to the stages of creating movements thus had a logic. Looking back and analyzing the process, I identify 3 stages of consciousness that is instituted through the teaching process. Number 1, the first process is somatic possibilities. Knowing one's own body along with generating a mind-body connection through breathing, becoming conscious of fingers, toes, spine, shoulder, stomach, knees, that is different body parts. The second possibility is that of kinesthetic awareness and imagination, knowing the extent of the movements that each body part is capable of, the flow of movement from one part of the body to the other, trying out new ways of expressing with embodied engagements. The third possibility was the proxemic communication. This one was one of the most innovative ways of being in proxemic communication with other bodies, set out specifically to explore criteria for moving together with others as a different set of skills and awareness than the requirements of dancing as an individual in a solo performance. One excellent example of the training for layered consciousness in dancing is that of walking to dancing. This exercise was a regular part of the senior, so age 16 onward classes. Starting without any rhythm, the students were asked by Amala Shankar to start walking to form a circle while trying to arrive at a common pace and matching steps. Walking straight with an everyday gait, the group started concentrating on walking on a common rhythm while listening to the instructions given by Mashima. Without stopping, the bifurcation of the mind that counted the rhythm in 1, 2, 3, 4 while continuing to follow increasingly complex additional movements that Mashima was challenging the students with by talking parallelly as they continued with the previous movements. This whole thing started with simpler exercises like walking and clapping on a particular rhythm, to increasingly complex steps and breaking of rhythmic patterns in claps followed by hand movements added to the pattern meant that there was a need to concentrate on different requirements introduced to activate layers of capabilities. Over and above this, she would talk to us, asking us what we had for breakfast or who reached us to class that day, challenging us to continue with the moving and concentrating on the dance, on the counts, on the music while having an everyday conversation.